everyone. That's that. Amen. Have this. Okay, let's look at Matthew chapter 8. Matthew chapter 8. Okay, Matthew chapter 8. And we'll have two readers. The first reader read verses 1 and 2. The second reader, if you wouldn't mind reading verses 1, 2, 3, and 4. So two readers, Matthew 8. First reader read 1 through 2. Let us know what version you're reading from. Second reader read verses, chapter 8, verses 1 through 4. Let us know what version.
I'm reading from New King James Version of Matthew chapter 8, verse 1 to 8. When he had come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. And behold, a leper came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean.
Okay, thank you. Next reader, verses 1 through 4.
When he had come down from the mountain, and behold, the leper came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if you are willing, then Jesus the Lord said, I am willing, even Jeffers because and he has said, you left me, tell no one, but go your way, show yourself to comfort
Okay, thank you. One of the more than one occasions where Jesus healed someone with leprosy. The reason why that's a big deal is when you get leprosy, you have to be removed physically from the community because it's so contagious. Anybody will get it. So therefore, leprosy wasn't like having a cold or even today having cancer, because cancer you can still operate within your family, your job, and things like that until you physically are too weak to go to work. Leprosy was way worse than that. Leprosy would separate you from everything that you knew, and to make matters worse, you would have to go hang out with other people that had leprosy, right? So now sick people around sick people, and just imagine the turmoil you would have to go through to be there. So this is a big deal to be able to heal leprosy, right? This concept of community is at the fabric of the Israelites' culture, right? They're a very communal set of people. Their festivals require them to be together. Some festivals require them to travel all the way from where they physically may live back to some centralized location like Passover with Jerusalem. So they're big into being communal. So being outside of the community is a big deal. If you look at Numbers, Deuteronomy, and Leviticus, some of the harshest punishments that God tells Moses to give to the people for certain sins are they get put out of the community. Right now, to us, that's not a big deal because people will just say, oh, I just go somewhere else. But in this time frame, being outside of the congregation would be a big deal, right? So being removed because of health reasons would be a big deal. So when we have this story, we can see how important it would be to get this blessing. The interesting thing is you're not that far into Jesus's ministry. Just a couple of chapters back, you have the Sermon on the Mount in chapter 5. And then when he comes down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. Behold, a leper came and worshiped him, saying, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. It's interesting that that's the dialogue between him and Jesus, right? He recognized that Jesus had power and that he had power that Jesus had control over. These people today will just claim, oh, the Holy Spirit came over me. I can't even control myself. Then they start knocking down chairs and slapping people in the face, and we're supposed to be impressed by them. But Jesus had a power that he was able to control, And his audience noticed that because this person said that if you are willing, you can make me clean. Jesus said, I am Lord, right? And then he cleansed them and told him to show himself to the priest, which was the custom there, so he can get back into the community, offer the gift that Moses commanded, and testimony to them. But he said, see that you tell no one, because we know Jesus' time hadn't came, and he kept telling certain people that as he was going through this 3.5 years, until the popularity got so big. And that's when we get to that final week when he was in Jerusalem. So that's the backdrop of there. But look at the main point is this Sermon on the Mount, which we didn't have time to dive into in the sermon, and we don't have time to look at tonight. But this Sermon on the Mount leads us to this, because the Sermon on the Mount is very communal in and of itself. It's an interaction between you and someone else, right? It's taking your understanding of what the law, what you thought the law was, and making it applicable to people's everyday lives. For example, right, he said, you heard don't kill, but I say don't hate, right? So now you're making it more personal, right? You heard don't commit adultery, I say don't lust, right? Then he talks about oaths, right? Don't swear by your head, let your yes be let yes, your no be no. Don't try to have retaliation, love people, give, pray, fast. Don't worry about money and the things of this world. Serve God. Seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness. All these things will be added to you. Don't judge people. Do unto others as you would have be done to yourself. And the reason why is because depending on how you act towards these things will put you on the two paths of life. That's how he ends this sermon, which is saying, narrow is the gate, wide is the gate to destruction, and narrow is the gate that leads to righteousness, right? And then he talks about this concept of a parable of the two builders, right? And being able to, somebody building on the rock, a strong foundation, when the storms of life come, the house doesn't fall. Somebody building on the sand, a weak foundation, weak faith, and then when the storms of life come, and then your house is washed away. Verse 28 and 29, and so it was when Jesus had ended these things that people were astonished at his teachings, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes, right? People were amazed that he was talking in this way because they never heard somebody preach or teach in this level. So that's the backdrop, right? He's giving these things. And the thing that's interesting is when you really look at Jesus's purpose in his oral ministry, right? We understand the wonders and we understand the signs. John talks about that. We understand the sacrifice was for sin, right? But his verbal ministry, right? His sermon, when the Bible starts talking about him coming to give life and more abundantly, and he's saying that the truth shall set you free. These sets of passages here, Matthew 5, 6, and 7, is freeing his audience, right? It's giving them the ability to have access to something that they did not know they had access to, right? Making it applicable, making the law applicable to an average person and not some high-level thing that only the Pharisees and the scribes and the lawyers could read. So that was the concept, right? That was the learning, that was the teaching. When he comes off of the mountain, that's when we get this interaction with the leper. And now we're all over the place in terms of the community. He heals the leper. He heals the centurion's servant. He heals Peter's mother-in-law. He calms the sea. He casts the demons, the legion, into the swine. He heals the paralytic person. He calls Matthew the tax collector. And then he just goes on and on and on. Right now, it's an explosion of this communal concept. He goes from community to community, village to village, healing people. Some passages say Jesus went to a certain town or village or community and healed everybody, right? So the concept of what Jesus is doing is really laying down the foundation of the church for the disciples, right? Not just the apostles, but all of his disciples to understand. So when it comes all the way to the night in which he was betrayed and he's washing their feet, he asked them a very valid question. Do you know what I'm doing to you? The concept was no, right? We've seen what you've been doing. Even we're experiencing what you're doing, but we don't really understand what you're doing, right? That's the benefit of the Holy Spirit. right? You understand, you see, it's kind of like in the steps of salvation, you have to go through all steps to get the full understanding, right? Belief is not enough. Demons believe, right? Confessing is not enough. You have to go through the steps because the Holy Spirit comes when you're baptized. That's what the Bible says, right? And when you get that access and God living inside of you, it opens up your mind to clear understanding, right? Think of James, where the Bible says God gives wisdom freely to whoever asks. So that's the concept there, right? So the disciples, even he told them in the night that he was betrayed, you're not going to fully understand now, but when the Holy Spirit comes, then you'll fully get it. So that's the backdrop, right? There's a large part of Jesus's earthly ministry that most people in the world don't fully understand. They don't get a good grip of what Jesus was trying to do. But if you go all the way back to the Old Testament, Jesus was trying to do the same thing that God was trying to get mankind to do. That's why Jesus's parables confuse people, because he wasn't talking Jews or Greek. A lot of times his parable, if you notice, will have non-Jew characters, right? Meaning like the concept of the Good Samaritan. The Jewish characters in that parable were doing the wrong thing, right? It was a Samaritan who did the right thing. So imagine an audience of always thinking inclusive, Jews only, and Jesus is telling you, hey, these group of Jews, this priest and this person, they actually did the wrong thing. It was actually the foreigner that did the right thing. Or how about when Jesus came down off the mountain and the foreigner was like, hey, you don't even have to come to where I live. You just heal my servant from here. And he talks about, wow, I haven't seen that much faith even in all of Israel. People would be confused at what he was saying. The concept was he wasn't looking at actions, he was looking at heart. And that's why the Sermon on the Mount is such a big deal, because it's talking to the heart of the average person, right? That God so loved the world, right? Think of 1 John. This concept of love is at the core of everything that God is about. It's the whole reason why humans were created. And Genesis to Revelation is a love story between God and mankind built on the bridge of Jesus Christ. So people miss that in the earthly ministry because people feel that Jesus was establishing this religious hierarchy and they're missing the actual actions of being religious. That's why James said true religion is looking after widows and orphans, right? He didn't say true religion is going to church every Sunday, or true religion is making sure you don't miss Lord's Supper. True religion is going to Bible study every Wednesday night, right? True religion is actually putting things that you know into action. That's the big difference. So that's what we want to look at tonight. A couple of questions. One is like a sub-question of the first one. First question is, using the earthly ministry of Jesus as an example, what are some ways I can help improve my community, both physically and spiritually? Because Jesus did that, right? Jesus improved his community physically and spiritually, right? All the people he healed, did they live forever or did they die eventually? Even Lazarus, right? So the healing wasn't a big deal. It was a big deal to them in their life. But if they lived to be at 80, but were baptized and lived forever, what would be those 80 years? Nothing, right? But he did those things because he was freeing people on this side and the next side, right? So Jesus did things both physically and spiritually. So how can we? What are some ways that we can come up with a list of things that we are doing, can do, other people around the world are doing to improve our communities physically and spiritually? Where are some of the areas in which I can look if I can't find somewhere to go, right? Let's say you say, hey, I'm willing to go. I'm not sure where to go. Where are some areas, right, for us that live in this Fairfield County, greater Bridgeport area, right? What are some tools, even in the world, that we can access to find out ways to improve our community? And then once we're in those situations, bring both the physical and the spiritual aspect there. And the second question is, using the earthly ministry of Jesus as an example, what can I do for God's kingdom if I'm afraid of people, right? First of all, we have to admit some of us are. That's the first thing, right? People are intimidating. Meeting strangers are intimidating, right? To some people, they can talk to strangers in the line in the grocery store and find out everything about them. By the time they go to checkout, they know their social security number, they know their blood type, their address, their phone number. They're just friendly. Other people can be sitting next to somebody in their class for 2 semesters and never know the person's last name, never know their phone number, never know anything about them because they're just not outgoing, right? Different people have different personalities. So knowing that, what can we do, right? Some people in a Bible study may say, hey, everything you're saying sounds great, but it doesn't sound like something I'm able to do. So what are some things that we can do, right, to answer that for those of us or those people we're studying with that are afraid of people or fearful or not as outgoing, or don't have a desire to interact with people on that level? So those are the 2 questions. So this is more of like a workshop type Bible study where we can brainstorm on some ways for us as individuals, as a congregation, and also just as the universal, as the Church of Christ as a whole all over the world, to figure out how can we take this, right, this 2,000 plus years ago recipe, how can we apply it to 2015 where we are in this world of helping to improve our communities physically and spiritually, and how do we work within our own personalities that we have to be able to still be an asset to God's kingdom, not a liability. Okay, let's talk only for 15 minutes, and then we'll come back as a group because we want to have some time to share. So let's divide ourselves up, talk for 15 minutes, and then we'll come back. And make sure at least one person writes down the list of whatever suggestions that the group has. That way we can run through them at the end together. All right. You want to write down just the suggestions for the men, if you could. Uncle, what you think for the first one? What are some ways we could help to improve our community? Physically, start physically first. What are some ways physically, right?
Health-wise for yourself.
Okay.
As long as you're
No,
healthy.
I just said I would do it. Sorry.
Yeah, we go. Also physicality.
So, let's look at question number 1. Using the first
Good. Okay. That's it's hard to do anything in the community if you're not physically well, right? If you had a plan to do some huge food drive and you weren't physically able to do it, it would be a hindrance, right? So that's the first thing, not being tired, right? Not being lazy, right? You got to take care of yourself first. So that's a good one. Okay. What else? What are some other physical things? What are some things around us physically that we can help? We know we can't heal somebody, right? But what are some ways that we could do to help them physically?
Well, it's a matter of finding out what the needs are. So, for instance, young people, guidance, mentorship, areas
Good. All right, yeah, let's write that down for sure. Mentoring, let's start with young people. Mentoring young people, right? First, we know young people, there are a vast number of them from broken homes, right? Single parent homes. Some live with aunts, uncles, grandparents. some are in the system, either in foster care or some sort of situation like that, right? So that would be for sure guidance that they will somehow. That's for sure one of them, right? Physically, not even talking about spiritual guidance, just some sort of father or mother figure, big brother, big sister program, some sort of just everyday kind of lessons that we learned in our life from family members that they may never learn because no one taught them. No one even said one sentence that their mind would say, oh, I didn't think like that. So that's a very good. Then we know their physical well-being, right? Some kids, because of their home situations, don't have food or enough food to eat, right? They don't have clothing. There's things like right now during this time back to school, right? You have situations where people will get school goods or gift cards at Walmart or certain things like that to help kids. That's a good one. Tutoring, right? If you're good in a certain aspect of something in physical life and you're able to tutor or something after school, that's a good one.
Right.
Once you get all that physical out there, where are you spiritually?
In poverty,
Second, something is all going to be one. And again.
Right.
So once you get that established, then you can just divert them all into one section of reading. If I always tell, because I had called one time, I said, what can I do to eat?
And then you have that center there.
But I'm talking to somebody starting. He said, always go, first go to
before you cross.
So when I first started reading that, I says, okay, well, this is good to start off.
Yeah, I know exactly.
We'll bring everybody into
And then here,
you have to figure out where their spiritual mind is. For those who really believe and really understand on that. Once you get that witness, and there's an addition.
Yep, so that's a good one, right? First of all, that's a good point. I say the same thing. If somebody is looking for somewhere to start in the Bible, I very rarely will tell them Genesis because I don't want to confuse them. I tell them John. The book of John is a very good place to start because it's a very intimate gospel of Jesus's life. The other, and for people who are looking for that type of communal relationship, is a good one. The other good one is Luke, because Luke, remember, is writing from a perspective from the outside looking in to persuade, right? So that's a good concept, right? To the outside looking in, he's trying to persuade. So he's another good place to start. And then once you read John, I usually will go to 1 John and James. So those are good points. Why? Because those are James, especially. James is just talking about everyday thing, right? Like your tongue or the way you treat people or just praying for others. Like it's not getting into the specifics of church structure. It's just talking about Christian living, right? So when you're looking for that balance or that transition, you're trying to get people to make it applicable to their life. So that's good. Okay, so let's go back to the physical outside of the kids with the mentoring, right? Let's think of adults, right? What are some things we can write down for the adult side physically? What are certain things that adults struggle with physically that we can assist with, right? Addiction, right? So I know the sister congregation Waterbury allowed for the AA, Alcohol Anonymous, to have their meetings there. And some of the members were baptized because actually one that our family is good friends with, his mind was, what church would want to have alcoholics in their church? He never even could fathom. And one day the minister was just happened to be cleaning up and he started talking to him, and then he had a Bible study, and then he went to church, and then he got baptized, right? So they looked at it as, we have a building, you guys don't have a space. Every whatever night it was from this to this, you guys come, you have your meeting, and you go. But the point was they opened up their physical availability, right, without judging. That was the whole point in the Sermon on the Mount, right? They didn't judge. They didn't grill them. They didn't come down and start taking attendance and figure out who did what. They just let them vent. And at their own pace, people came to whatever conclusion that they came to. So that was a blessing. So addiction is good, right? There's a lot of things we can do in terms of shelters, in terms of different government funded programs to help out with those sort of things, right? You'll have every city will have some sort of health situation at least once a year where they'll be passing out things, right? Like medicine or needles or different things like that to at least help with what is physically going on in their community. So there's always opportunities for that. So that's a good place to start. What else for adults? Addiction and what else? Yeah, so a lot of people, addiction goes outside of sometimes our normal concept, right? Certain people struggle with sexual things, right? On a whole variety of things, right? We know fornicating, adultery, sexual abuse, right? They say a lot of times if you're abused physically or sexually, you usually going to either be an abuser or be abused, because the way you process those things as a young person affects your growth, right? So sometimes it's not so much about judging where somebody is, but finding out where they came from, right? Somebody may be the way they are, even they do a heinous crime, but because somebody did the same thing to them, so it affected them their whole life. So to really help them, you got to get to the root of the problem. So that's why I was highlighting what Waterbury was doing, right? They're not going to just come out and start walk downstairs and say, great, we got 50 people downstairs, let's have a sermon on addiction. They actually did the opposite and didn't say anything to them, because the people were so amazed, wow, nobody judged me. They just let me be, right? And once I became comfortable, I was able to open. So that's a good one. Because a lot of people struggle with that. And the media will downplay that, but that sexual tension that people have torn apart families and lives since Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden. So that's a very good one. Okay, what else? We got, what other ones for?
They just do, right?
One thing
an
that
opportunity.
as
Now,
soon as
when
you said tutoring,
I
the
have
thing about it
invited
was
her
in stores,
to,
the community is really, really strong, especially adults are mostly from
so
transfer students from
Other countries, yeah.
And so they host like English session conversation club.
So there'll be some
basically they teach English to Chinese individuals.
Right.
Coming in. There's been such a good following, and there's also been individuals who hosted separate classes, biblical classes.
Right.
Just coming from that.
So yeah, we talked about that last week, right? How many people have learned how to read the Bible? I mean, learn how to read from the Bible, even in American history, right? So something like that. Hey, I have a physical need. I want to learn the language of the land, right? I'm expecting a school or something, right? I know maybe there's a fee or something like that. This church doing it for free. So regardless what I believe, I need to learn this. I don't have money, so I'm going to go. So something like that is non-church traditional, right? It's something if we were making a list of, hey, how are we going to save people? It wouldn't be at the top. But the point is, we're going physical first, right? We're addressing a physical need that they have and hoping that our benevolence spurs them on to see our good work. You get what I'm saying? So the whole point of the Sermon on the Mount was take these spiritual things and put them into physical things, so people will see the spiritual from the physical blessings that you're doing. So that's a very good one. Anywhere, any church that's around colleges, you have a lot of exchange students that come back and forth every semester. So what they're doing up at stores near UConn is huge, because there is that need, and you just slide in with the free, right? Hey, I need to learn this, and it's free. I'm going to come. A lot of churches do physical things in terms of food, right? We go to Prospect House. Some churches will have meals. They'll say one day out of the month, we open up to the community. When I went to a church in Baltimore, when I lived there, they were like that. They're very community. Anybody could walk in and out of that church at any time. We would have a potluck. Anyone would be at potluck. Every potluck they had there, you got to bring a lot of people, because people literally just walk in from the street, go to church, and eat. And that level of interaction, not being overbearing, not sometimes even going to them with visitor cards, and just being nice to them, literally being nice to them. And sometimes people were so shocked that we would not try to get them to come back, that they came back, right? Because they're like, yeah, like, hey, nobody pressured me. I was expecting, it's like a car salesman, right? No one came up to me in the car lot. I was expecting somebody to badger me as soon as I got there. So that's a good one. Okay, what else? Anything else?
That door was like, whoa.
So I give from my room number, my apartment number. Everyday sense.
Yeah, everyday things, right? Just common things. Think of broken families. You know, there's some church members that have degrees in psychology and things like that. They volunteer their time or they write books and things like that that are worldly, right, in a concept, but have a religious undertone. And those things can just help, right? Sometimes even just in our conversations at work, we can benefit from that, right? A conversation that's not necessarily, hey, come to church, but someone feels, wow, you kind of speaking a little bit different than what I'm used to. And then that kind of opens up the door. Hey, why do you feel like that? Oh, because, you know, my relationship with Jesus, or, you know, did you know the Bible said this or that? And it kind of opens up people's mind to everyday things they struggle with that sometimes people feel, oh, everyone does that. That's like for young people. So people do things because everyone do it. They don't want to do it, but they assume everyone does it. Then they find out there's someone who doesn't do it, and it encourages them, right? That's the thing that young people struggle with. They do things because they feel like it's a must, but once you start talking to other people, even sometimes it's the most popular people who say, oh, I just do it because everyone else was doing it. I never really wanted to do that thing. So just freeing somebody's mind to let them know, you know, you have your own choice. Like young people, high school and college, young men, young women, if somebody walked up to some of these young men and women in this country, say, you know, you have your own choice, just because your last name, just because your skin color, just because where you grew up, don't mean you have to be like that. That's nothing. We didn't say anything spiritual yet. That's just a free concept. They say, what? Nobody ever told me that. No one ever encouraged me to be something better than what I'm already doing. So you'd be surprised at just those type of conversation. If you look at the chapter later on where he's talking to Matthew, right? That's the concept, right? He didn't go into all these things that Matthew did and do. Look, free. Stop being the way you are. You should be free. And those things are what people picked up on, that freedom that the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the lawyers were shackling them because they were making them feel bad. But Jesus was saying, hey, use this as freedom. Okay, 5 more minutes.
The other morning, I was driving to work and listening to Donnie McKirkland. So one of the jewels that he dropped was get involved with your community. And I said, man, yeah, we were just talking about that in my sermon. And I'm just, and he just going on this, man. I was like, wow, I just tied right in. And I'm saying to myself, you know, I do volunteer work, but there's more volunteer work that I can do that's more on the spiritual side, and as far as like just on the community side, as far as like with sports and stuff. It was good that on the radio he was saying that, so whoever was listening, maybe it touched me because it was already on my mind. And then to hear that, it just refreshed my mind more. You know, but if each person gets more involved in the community, it starts with your neighborhood, your neighbors first. You know, you get more involved with them, with your neighbors, and before you know it, you won't be afraid to go out and talk to the community.
Right. Think of it like this, right? How many fathers coach because their kid want to play, right? Like fathers say, I didn't want to coach, but my kid wanted to play. That's an opportunity, right? Because now them kids look up to you, right? You have those kids' undivided attention. If you were to say, hey, let's go to Vacation Bible School, or let's go to a youth rally, some of those kids are going to go just by default. Hey, Coach Dennis said to go to VBS. Mom, can I go? Right? They don't even know what VBS is, right? They just think, hey, Coach said to come here, right? So that's the concept here. The other thing is, and this is into the next question, but what Dennis was saying, right? They have like a saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Don't look at the city you live in and say, oh, 150,000 people, oh, I'm overwhelmed, right? Think about just a couple people you know. That's what I'm saying. If you look at coaching, you may say, hey, over the next 2 years, I'm going to try to be a coach because my son or my daughter is in this or that. And even if it's once a year, I'm going to open up my home at the end or at the beginning or both. Hey, come over, have a cookout, invite some church people, or let's go to this. Even just that, you would be surprised how effective that is on somebody's life because somebody appeared that they have it all together, but some of those kids may be broken or family may be broken, right? The kid may not even realize it. So just doing those things will speak volumes to people inside of your community. And a lot of times, like I said, it's related to your own kids, right? Things that your kids do, you get involved. When your kids get older, you get involved in something else. That's normally how it flows. But some kids don't have somebody to get involved. So therefore, people sometimes are looking for even just a volunteer, coach, referee. How many times Pat always saying nurses for camp or teachers for camp or arts and crafts, right? Don't assume that just because something always has been going on, that there is a person for that void, right? Sometimes we are that person. This year, they were looking for somebody to be even just a couple days because they were so understaffed. You don't know what could change in somebody's life just from being a presence, right? This year, somebody from the campgrounds got baptized, right? What if we didn't have the camp, right? What if no one went, no one volunteered? Like, we don't think of ourselves as interconnected, right? Each part means something, right? So if you miss a part, you can't have camp. Without the nurse, camp cannot go on. So no camp, the person don't get baptized. When we zoom out, then we understand. But when we zoom in, we're like, whoa, how can we do this great thing? How can I save a soul? It sounds like impossible. You do it just one step at a time. Don't overthink it. Think it in the way of this chapter 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's good. Anybody else?
Give them a peace of mind. Lesson, you don't want to discourage them. And you want them to have that peace of mind that you are there for them, and let them know that you can come and call them, or they can call you at any point in time, so that you can help them out in all the conditions that they have in their lives. And once you do that, then you can just continue to have that enjoyment. Now you have that enjoyment that helps you someone else.
Good, good. Anybody else, physical or spiritual ways, or where you can look? No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to share something that Tiana's going to in Six Flags with her college roommates, and one of them was spending the night. Tiana spoke to her about coming to church on Sunday. So she agreed to come to church on Sunday night. And that, see, it's just simple. Just talking. You know what I mean? I think, a friend had a good time last time. Right. So it's just nice that, she's communicating. She's socializing, but she's also doing God's work at the same time.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Somebody say, "Oh, I never did," because you never asked. Some people say, "Nobody ever asked me." Right? No one asked me to go to Bible study or pray for me, or so I'm not gonna volunteer. But if somebody asked me, maybe I would. So that's a good point.
I like it. Even Alana, she asked, she talks to her friend, and her friend came that time. But that's everybody got a friend. Somebody to talk to every day.
Somebody, right?
Everybody got a friend they talk to every day. You can find to tell you secrets or whatever.
At least a couple minutes, right? All right, finish up your thoughts. But go ahead.
We don't do the marriage outreach no more, so we don't have that incentive.
No, but that's a good concept, right? Cookouts, right? We think of, me and you were talking about this with the potential to have the fish fry, right? Not only thinking church, right? We're gonna come to any potluck or cookout, but think about other people, because the other people would come and be amazed that so many people were there, right? That's what me and Dennis were talking about, right? And Uncle, we were like, people would be shocked that many people would be there, and you say, "Oh, just come, it's free, just come." And we have food, and people love, people will be amazed, and they'll be persuaded just by those things. So yeah, that was good. I forgot about that.
And sometimes people will say, no, people have told us no many times, right? Sometimes the least likely candidate. You just do everything you can not to ask them, but you know they're going to say.
All right, ready? Probably not ready, but let's do the latter ones as a group, just so we can write some of these things down for future reference. We can reference back for the recording and those kind of watching. So let's go through the first, right? The first A1 and A are kind of all together, so you don't have to answer them separately. But using the earthly ministry, right? Jesus as an example. What are some ways we can help improve our community physically and spiritually? Where can we look, and what are some ways? So I'm going to make physical first, and then I'm going to do spiritual. Okay. So whoever was writing down for the group, let's start listing some so we can go through pretty quick.
So for physical, we said that like Jesus first tried to give fulfill physical needs of people, so they are taken care of physically, so they can focus on spiritual things.
Okay.
So we said visit the sick, elderly, serve in community centers like Prospect Health, which we do here monthly. We used to volunteer in Martin House, so serve to those in need. Use our physical talents, such as our our age and race, our gender, as a way to reach out to those in need. So some might relate to me as a Nepali better, versus some might reach out to, relate to Sister Beulah more.
Okay, good.
So we use those to our advantage. And be willing to be friendly and always have a positive attitude that will draw people to you. They would want to know like the reason for your good nature, and that can just be the topic for like the conversation to build up on it.
All of these are great. One that we can all relate to is, think of this: be willing to be friendly, positive attitude. Think back to when we were doing the disaster relief. When we prayed in that circle, remember that was the prayer. Why? Because people were going to come as what? Agitated. And we couldn't get agitated because they were agitated or because someone else was agitated, right? We had to understand some people may be rude to you. We couldn't try to say, hey, you rude to me, I'm giving you free stuff, right? That would disrupt the flow of the whole day. So we had to be the bigger people and say, even when people were coming after the time, we couldn't say, hey, man, look, the flyer said this time, so you can't get nothing. Because the first thing people would have said was what? That church had me go all the way out there and they didn't give me anything. They'll skip the part they said, oh, I was late. So we still had to act a certain way. So this, willing to be friendly, positive attitude. Wow, this is hard work, because at the end of the day, everybody was tired, right? Emotionally tired, because dealing with people is very draining, because it's not like people are willing to be friendly to you back. So that's a good one. Any other thing on this physical for the women's side before we go?
We just said for spiritual side to give out tracts and be willing to share God's word. Like be more personal with people. You'll be surprised as to how much people are willing to open up to you. We just gave like a couple of examples here and there.
One thing is, I don't know if we value printed material as much as we should. I go to New York a lot. When I'm in New York, Grand Central, I see a lot of people giving me nonsense. Hey, Rapture is coming. You want this? I said, when? Where is it? Look, some people are going to go up. Some people are going to stay. Who told you that? But they passing out. People walking. Here, look. Jesus coming. Look, Jesus, right? Ooh, look. Those people, some people take it, don't want it. Some people throw it in the garbage. But some people take that. And some people I see on the train reading that nonsense. And because that was the only thing they gave, how do they know it's nonsense, right? So they digest that nonsense, and then a portion of those people start to believe that nonsense. And then they find on the back a little phone number to find some local church of people that teach and preach that nonsense that they now believe, and now they become church members. Not many million of people go through Grand Central Station every single, day, week, month, off of a printed material. Not saying you take the time to have Bible study with somebody. That person got to go, but they're going to take the Bible study with them. Will some people throw it out? Yes. Some of us were discouraged when we were passing out, trying to say, oh, someone threw it on the floor. Don't worry, honey. People threw Jesus' message on the floor. People threw Jesus on the floor, right? Don't be hurt by the people that throw it away. Be amazed that in one day, one person took it. That was one person you never would have reached if it wasn't. So this printed material go far, much further than you could go because you don't have time. Sometimes you'll find something in your pocket or something later. You say, oh man, what was this? 6 months ago. Maybe you going through a bad time and you see one of a flyer or something. Maybe this event already left. What is true? You say, man, I remember somebody at Bridgeport Church. What is true? What is truth? I need some truth right now. And that may spark who knows what. So that's good.
Another event can be like a door knocking, which we did, I know, a couple of summers ago, when we have an event and we just go around asking people to come in. Then we'll show like we're welcoming. It's very hard to find people, a group of people that are welcoming to new people, especially you have to pay membership and things. So when we're saying, oh, free event, it looks kind of good.
And one thing is, and I'll let kind of David go for the men, but so I don't forget, is one thing we were just ending off with is Brother Dennis, Uncle Tony, a couple of people were talking about possibly figuring out some way where we can do some fishing trip over the next, let's say, month or 2 months, and then maybe even having a fish fry. Now, if you're from the South or certain culture, a fish fry is just you come over to that cookout, the whole menu is fish, but it's a big deal. You say, well, what's the big deal? Why it's a big deal? I can't tell you the why, but it's a big deal, right? Especially for black culture. Black culture, a fish fry is a big deal, right? A cookout is nice, but a fish fry is like special, right? That's like, whoa, you go to a cookout, but you didn't tell me it was a fish fry. Now I'm really going to go. But what we were talking about was not even just for us, because we were saying, yeah, we would, obviously, if we could get 4 or 5 churches to come. But we were thinking for other people, because people would come and be amazed that, wow, this many people, right? We were talking about even, man, if we got some fire pits and made them in a circle, even if it was late September, October, just the heat alone, people were inside, it would still be warm. We were brainstorming to think, could it be possible? But the reason why we were brainstorming was we were like, it would be like something people would talk about for a long time. Wow, this was a fish fry at Seaside Park. 50 people were there. Who did you know? One person. What you mean? Somebody invited me. I thought it was just going to be a couple people. It was 50, 100 people. Just the sheer number factor would be persuasive to people. Think of the 5,000. Imagine going back and like, hey, this guy made food for how many? One? No, 5,000 people. They're impossible. No, I promise I was there. Something like that is a big deal, right? Hey, I went to a cookout with my church. Well, how many people was it? 20 people? No, this church had 100 people. What? 100 people? Doing what? Eating fish. It was unbelievable, right? Those sort of things may not mean a big deal to us. Why? Because it's work for us. We were talking about we'd have to figure out a way to go get the fish, first of all, clean the fish, cook the fish, right? Have the event. It would be work. But the people would be like, wow, this isn't what I expected. That's what we were talking about, some wow factors. What are some things we can do that is not what people expected, where people would leave saying, if someone said, how was it? They would say, I don't know how to say how it was. It was literally nothing what I expected, right? It was just a good time, X, Y, and Z. So that was one thing I wanted to highlight because we had just ended. Okay, thanks, ladies. You have a great list. David, what did the men have?
As far as the men's list, again, it's similar in a lot of ways about using your talent. Specifically, just like how Jesus always left with leaving individuals with some thought in their head, reflection of their own lives, and Samaritan woman thinking about her own life, leaving things themselves and giving them perspective. A lot of the list does have to do with mentoring. As far as young people, there's mentoring young individuals that need guidance, that have not experienced the same privileged life as we have. As far as adults, there's basically similar programs about aiding individuals suffering from addiction, whether it be drugs, adultery, domestic violence, and similar. There's also teaching English for non-native speakers. That's also very useful. Useful means as well. Besides those, we have things that you might not think of, but about keeping yourself physically well to be able to prepare yourself to be more active in physical needs in the community. That's taking care of yourself. Again, public potlucks as mentioned by Brother Dennis. And I think that should be it.
Good. Anybody else have anything that they thought of after they want to add?
I think, we've gone to the nursing home on a few occasions in Christmas time, and we bought them gifts, and I think just, the reception from some of the people in the nursing home and how some of them were so happy and couldn't believe it. We're singing Christmas carols and they're joining in and they're so excited because it's holiday time and not all of them have family. There are a lot of people that don't have families. And one of the things I know I was thinking about before, so when maybe it was in the nursing home, so when my mom was in the nursing home, I would go and I would bring up hair, right? So I always have to do hair. But when you think about it, not everyone has someone, and not everyone can do our hairs, right? And so they won't do it. But little things. These are things that sometimes we forget or don't even think about. We just don't think about them. But there's so many different opportunities, I think, for us to do. I mean, we can have a laundry list of things that we can do.
That reminded me of something. A friend of mine was telling me just recently that her grandmother had passed away. You know what she said? She said, I wish I could adopt a grandmother. I wish the old lady would let me call her. Think about that. How many people, even within just the churches in Connecticut, are over 60 years old?
No,
she just was sad in tears. I wish I could just call an older woman that was older than me just to pretend that she was my grandmother. Even look, what would she speak? Maybe 30 minutes a week? Like, that's something I never would think. Or someone say, I wish I had a brother. I wish I had a sister. I wish I had a father. I wish I had a mother. Like just basic things, right? Helping in community where, wow, old people. Look, what about lotion, bed sores, hair? I used to volunteer in high school at elderly facility. People say nobody ever visited me. I just sit here and rot away. And the thing is, with this physical list, when you help people like that, you feel way better. Because you know why? First, you feel bad for the things you be complaining about. You say, man, I was complaining all day, and this person don't even have somebody to put lotion on their body, right? You feel, wow, let me stop the complaining. But then you feel good for helping someone else. You leave that thinking, wow, that person's life changed. That was 5 minutes for me, but it was a lifetime for them. So that's a good one. But I just summed it up with families. A lot of people don't have family. You'd be surprised, holiday time. You'd be surprised how many people you say, hey, what you doing the holiday? You know people, they lie. Oh, I'm going over this. They don't got nowhere to go. They go home, eat a TV dinner because they don't have family. You'd be surprised how many people don't have family. Mother, father pass away, only child. Maybe they moved from somewhere else. They don't have aunts, uncles, cousins. Think about it. Holiday time for a lot of people, very lonely. That's opportunity, right? When people are lonely, that's opportunity. You would do some of anything when you lonely that you may not do when you have friends, including be around church people, right? You may not think nothing about no church, nothing, cookout, magi lift, nothing if you in a good place in life. But let you be down and out. Some of the hardest hearts would be, hey, what time you said that fish fry was again? Oh, you coming down? Yo, yeah, I'm free. My schedule just freed up because they're lonely. People get lonely and they look for anything to fill that void. So this physical list is important because it'll weigh into the spiritual. So that's good. Okay. What about, let's look at this second one, the second question, because the spiritual side, we just answer both in tandem of both all together, right? We're talking about not being overbearing and giving people time to grow. We're talking about in the men's side, right? Waterbury Church opened up their church for the AA meetings. They weren't overbearing. They didn't even interfere with the meetings until people started asking, you know, the members or ministers was cleaning up here or there. That sparked into Bible study. Some of them got baptized. We talked about that type of level of interaction. So in all of these physical events, right, if we're on our spiritual game, if we come being willing to be friendly and a positive attitude, we'll be able to assist in those spiritual things. Okay, now let's think of us in our setting, just from what we know. What can I do for God's kingdom if I'm afraid of people? One main thing is to work in a group. Right? Stop trying to do things by yourself, because by yourself, even in the army, they say army of one so that everyone is willing to be an army of one. But you can't win an army with one. But if every soldier think like that, then collectively they'll be strong, right? So church is that way. Think of a group, right? 2 people or 3 people or a family or 2 or 3 families. Say, hey, let's get together, have a picnic, and we'll invite one person. Or sometimes in church, people will come a lot of times in tears. Hey, I have a loved one. I have a neighbor or friend I'm very close to. I can't reach them. Can we have an event and the person come over just so they can meet other young people or other men or other women, and then maybe they'll be kind of influenced to have some sort of friendship or something like that. So that's a good one, work in a group. We were talking about on the men's side, there's a saying like, how do I eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Don't look at it as, wow, how can I save somebody's soul? Or how can I evangelize to 150,000 people? Just look at it as one person. Dennis was talking about just neighborhood. You can literally have a teens Bible study, YouTube. You don't even have to come together. Y'all can all be at your own houses having a free hangout, talking about anything. The young women can have a young women's class, not only their Sunday, just a, hey, ladies round table or a tea party at the comfort of your own home. Who knows will join, right? The women who don't work in the day, hey, we're going to talk about couponing or knitting tips or something. Just as a group, you don't know what reach you have. Stop thinking what you can't do Think about what you don't start making excuses for yourself when God in heaven saying, I'm just looking for somebody to try. Even if I had one person try, I do all the heavy lifting, but nobody will even turn their computer to me, even their computer, even their phone in their hand. So when we look at those sort of things, one thing I was talking about, me and my dad were saying, some people already go to church. So they don't want to come to your church. They already go to Bible study. So you saying come to church don't mean something to them. Why go to church? Why should I come to your church? Oh, we got good singing. We got good singing. We got good preaching. We got good preaching. Oh, who cares? But if that same person may watch something, if you said, oh, hey, watch this Bible study or come over and watch this, we were talking about evolution. Oh, I want to hear about that. Or we were talking about once saved, always saved. Or somebody may watch that. Someone may read that back to the printing. I already go to church. Oh, hey, here's a little track we had about, the 10 Commandments or explaining Moses, the story of Moses, or people's mind who are already on church. You got to reach them outside of Sunday and Wednesday. We always thinking Sunday and Wednesday. First thing we talking come to church. Someone say, oh, I work. Then we say, man, you can't be saved then. Because I was going to say come to church and you can't got to work. So, but God, I tried. No, there's 6 other days. A person, what can I do? That's why I say all the time to churches, you need to be digital. Stop telling me what y'all can do. First thing churches say, oh, we have older members, so we can't be digital. I'm not talking about being digital for the members. I'm saying be digital for the community. Because people out there, you don't know how many people every Sunday, every Wednesday, maybe right now on YouTube searching keywords, right? Oh, let me see this or this or this. And since there's no truth, they watch nonsense and they watching and watching and watching, and it influenced them. But we have all this knowledge from Genesis to Revelation, and we be in our brick and mortar buildings all over the country, 11,000 of us. But what are we doing to reach people? Think of the power digitally. One person, let's say you have Bible studies every week. You got 5 people that come. 5 people. If you had them same Bible studies online, digital, how many people can you read? We have 15 to 20 people watch every Sunday. Now, where are those people watching worship? I don't know. I don't care where they are. Some of them people I look, they be in Russia somewhere. Do they understand English? Why do I care, right? We just streaming. We're not worried about, hey, how are we going to quantify this or that thing or this? That's an old way. You just throwing, right? Wherever it land. Maybe somebody watched, they get convicted. They walk into somewhere else, say, hey, this hotel church sent me. What hotel church? I don't know. They were online and they just come. I looked and say, oh, this looked good. I searched, I found you. Who knows, right? Those are the opportunities that we have if we brainstorm and think outside of the box. That's one thing that I wish churches all over the world, Churches of Christ, really bought into. First thing you start talking to, especially leadership, they start telling me about 1970s ways. It's 2015 out here. You telling me about things y'all used to do in 1970 in some back town in Mississippi. We in Bridgeport 2015. No one understand those things. God bless that. We talking about now. People now, the first thing, that's why I say about a church with some sort of identity, people going to want to know, how will I differentiate this church? That's why this church have a logo. You tell some other churches about a logo, their mind will be like, why we need a logo? Because no one knows what a track is. What is a track? Now you go to church. If you didn't go to church, first of all, how do I spell track? Is it T-R-A-C-K, T-R-A-C-T? That's a church term. People in the world don't know what no track is. So you saying, oh, we're going to put a cross on it. Well, Catholic got a cross. How do I know if I lost that track to come to your church? I forgot your name. I forgot your website. Forgot your phone number. How do I find you? Oh, Church of Christ. That's too common a name. There's so many. United Church of Christ, Scientists. I forgot. People are visual. They go, oh, look, there, I seen that thing. Let me see. Yes, that's weird. Don't you do that with restaurants? Man, what was that restaurant supposed to go to? Oh, that, I seen, that's where I wanted to go. People are visual. You got churches that, oh, we have older members. say, oh, okay. So how do you do branding? How do you get someone to know who you are? Somebody forgot. They were in a rush. They didn't say, hey, I want to come, but I'm in a rush. Give me something. You don't have a business card. You don't have any nice flyer. You don't have a logo. You don't have a website. But you telling me you have the truth, but I can't receive it. You don't have nothing to give me so I can receive the truth. Get with the times. It's a new day out here. Seriously. Let's stop acting like, wait. And that's why for us as a congregation, encourage those other congregations, because some of them other congregations have all the resources in the world. One of the families that had came up from Florida, where the young person, the brother had passed away in a car accident. If y'all remember, that was last year. Brother Aaron had did the song service, and they had asked me to do the eulogy because they were Church of Christ, but the boy had moved up here and they didn't want whatever life he had leading the funeral service. But his point was, man, I'm going to go back and tell that church this one key thing, that if it wasn't for that church having a website, I would have never found that church, never been able to get strengthened up, because we went to the Bible study and the worship and we were in a such better mood. Never would have had somebody to lead singing, never would have had somebody to lead the services, and we never would have been able to teach and preach to those people we'll never see again. Because he said the last time I said something about a website, they said no and had a list of all these reasons, but now I have spiritual reasons, because I never even would have been restored myself, because all I did was I got up there. I don't know nothing about Connecticut. I just typed Church of Christ and I hit enter. That's it. I didn't know anything about Connecticut. I'm from Florida. But he said his church there, they thinking of all the reasons why they shouldn't have. That's why I'm saying for us, even our church in size, we have a great opportunity to reach this city digitally. People working, people busy. You'd be surprised how many young people will sit up and watch various topical Bible studies if you had some sort of way to get it to them. So that's why for us, we have these tools, right? This last week in August will be 1 year we've been doing the live stream, right? 18,000 plus views on all of our videos. You'll never even see 18,000 people. There's not a church in this state. I don't care what church. There's not a church in this state that have taught and preached 18,000 people in the door. Who? Which, because you are part of the oldest church around here, which is Bridgeport to Trumbull and Trumbull to Bridgeport. So who else you see reaching that many people? Because they only thinking about their four walls. Think bigger than that. God wants you on a universal team. Work in a group. Work in a group like us. Plant work. Still working with church in other countries. We say that to some church, their mind confused. How? Why? What? Look, y'all got building. You got money. Go plant a church somewhere else. How? How can we do it? We don't know how to. Then how are we doing it? You have more resources, but if no one encouraged them, they'll never be spurred on to do good works. I was telling my dad the other day, look at the Jamaican School of Preaching. You know how many people would want higher education? You advertise to people free. Hey, come every two Saturdays of the month. You can learn the Bible, get a higher education. You'll get a certificate. Oh, I want to learn Bible. There's a place in Yale. They charge about $100,000 a year to learn the Bible. How much you charge? Free. Oh, and where I gotta go? Nowhere. Stay at your house. Man, this is a win-win for me. When do I sign up? Look, things like that are opportunities that we have. It's churches with 200 members don't put forth no opportunity like that. People just say, this church offered me this, and because they offered me this, I started getting inquisitive about other things, and then it grew and it grew and it grew, and then a lot of times people become saved because of that. So the point is, don't be discouraged, be encouraged, right? You do a lot more than a lot of these churches. Now, it's no shade to them, but it's one thing that these other churches around here in these three states can't say about us is that by size, we do a lot. Don't have nobody telling you what Bridgeport not doing. We are a plant work that planted a church. It's people that haven't saved 20 people in 50 years in some of these churches. Haven't had 20 baptisms. They have resources, but it's not about resources. It's about ideas, right? That was the big deal. Ideas is what changed the Mediterranean world, because people had encouragement and they didn't see limitations. They felt like we can do anything in Christ Jesus. That's where the Church of Christ have to get back to. Forget about whoever is the most popular religion in this. You have Jesus Christ on your side. What could we not do? That's what me and Dennis and Uncle were talking about, the fish fry. What could we not do? Because the first thing is, man, it's so late in the year, but we didn't use those as discouragement. We started brainstorming. Man, what could we do? Well, we still have Harvest Day outside. Yeah, it's cold, but if we plan maybe a week or two before, if we got some fire pits, if we were just trying to brainstorm, right? We weren't going to give up just because we say, oh, we didn't think of this till August, forget about it. There's still so many opportunities. The people with the sunrise, people were saying, let's have breakfast instead, because everybody last year just went to the diner. If we had a buffet, then people could have an event. Maybe they want to play volleyball, soccer, and now it's turning into something. That's brainstorming. We didn't start talking about, man, we can't do this, or we don't have this, or we didn't start with the negatives. People started with the positives. Hey, here's something that, oh, and someone say, yeah, I was hungry last year too, or yeah, I went to the diner, or yeah, I was looking for something to do. So just brainstorming, enhancing what we're already doing, thinking outside of the box, wow, it's huge. Okay, let's close with comments. Denisha, and then whoever else has it.
Oh, I was just going to say, never to combat your fear, never underestimate the power of prayers. If you pray about an event, pray about what you have in your heart, you will find the strength to do anything. Like, I know I used to be very, like, I always was talkative, but to talk in front of a group, I always felt uncomfortable. But now, through prayer, I think that has gotten a lot better. So, pray about all the events. If you're scared to say something, Jenny, to pray, you will have a lot of courage.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I remember not this, what was that, last year, Memorial Day, right? Last year, Memorial Day picnic, or 2 years ago. We had the Memorial Day picnic last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't last year.
Yeah, last year we bought the grill, no?
Yeah.
Well, whenever we had it, right? People were thinking, oh, there's so many churches. How are we going to plan food? How are we going to do last year, right? People, oh, I'm going to be sleepy. I got to wake up. You had that event. Brother Melvin from Southwest, he was like, man, ooh, this was nice. I was like, really? He was like, yeah, we didn't know what to expect. We had a van full of people come down. Brother Kevin from Trumbull was like, man, wow, this was a nice thing. People having a good time out here. You guys have food constantly, and just people, look, it was about 100 people at that park. If we didn't plan, they never would have came. They never would have been encouraged. But they were happy that it was something going on, right? It was just, we did tiny bit of planning and boom, 100 people blessed, right? People encouraged, people had their own ideas. Brother Melvin was thinking of concepts for up there. Kevin was telling me, yes, it's just, brainstorming. Same thing happened with the ladies' day. Now, church is left from there. All these ideas. We're going to do a ladies' day. We're going to do a ladies' tea. We're going to do all these ladies' things. They had signs. They had all this stuff. The women were dressed in the same color. It was motivating to them, right? When we look at men's retreat, weird, tiny, barely, nothing, building. But when we counted, the men was counting. We say, hey, how come we got almost most people here at this men's retreat? Even we just in a hotel. And we looked around, we took a group picture. Our picture had the wide lens. Then we had to add Brother Patrick, just Photoshop, because he was somewhere. But then these other churches got 100 members, 200 members. They had 1 man, 2 men. Like sometimes we don't realize how effective we're being just by presence, just by showing up. Because if each one of the men didn't go to the men's retreat, then look, it would have been 15-something people less. If each one of the women didn't go to the ladies' day or didn't participate or didn't help plan, look, just working in a group, I'm afraid of people. Look, you don't got to do the talking. You could just be there. Just be a presence. It's very encouraging. Anyone who did any event planning outside of church, promoted a club, wedding planning, you know the biggest hurdle is, what if nobody shows up? What if I do all this work and two people show up right outside of the church? Forget about church. Just planning events, you always think, man, what if nobody comes? The benefit about church event, you know at least church people are going to come. Because church people will support anything, right? They'd just be like, hey, even if it's raining outside, hey, can you help me? Okay, fine. So they may grumble, but they'll be there. That's what we were thinking about with the picnic. If we could get just 5 churches, if 10 came from 5, that's already 50. So therefore, if we start inviting people, when people come, they'll already look like something is going on. But if I do all this work and invite my friends and then 3 friends come and it's only 10 people, you know what they're gonna say? I thought you told me this is a church picnic. Oh, people running late. What? I could have stayed home for 10 people, no disrespect. I mean, I like the food, but people were expecting people to be there, right? That's why sometimes, how can we help? By coming, just coming. Same thing Wednesday night. If nobody comes, no class. Sunday morning, if nobody comes, no worship. Even just presence. Stop thinking about highest level thing, right? Just think about, I'm going to show up, like the women said, with a positive attitude, and I'm going to be friendly. At least if I do those things, any church event, I know I'm being an asset and not a liability. I'm not going to grumble. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be on time. I'm going to help. Whatever God do, he do. I can't be preaching, teaching. I'm not going to baptize nobody in the seaside river or sound. But when it's time to clean up, I'm going to help clean up. Because somebody got to clean up, right? If everybody baptizing, who cleaning up? We say, oh, we was too busy baptizing. Bridgeport say, well, you left this place a mess. Y'all can't come here no more. Everybody got to do something, right? It matters, just like your body, your physical body. So just think about those things. I was telling Dad that you coming to holiday season, right? A lot of things, if we put in motion now, you be ready for November and December time. Because think, you just got maybe 10 weeks until you get to November. All of September, all of October, couple weeks left in August. Think, 10 weeks, not a long time to plan. So if you had some concept to plan something for the holiday, visiting the older people, or 8 weeks maybe to Harvest Day. We were thinking maybe 6 weeks if we have the picnic. Sister Paula was talking about the sunrise thing, and you really only have 1 or 2 Saturdays as an option for September because there's the ladies thing in Brooklyn and stuff. So it may seem, her point was, it may seem like it's weeks of planning, but you really don't have that much time. So we got to plan now. That's how we got to think, right? Let's think about certain things that we can do, just people generating things. And then look, this whole list, somewhere in this list, we can think of some ways. You say, hey, all those things I can't really help with, but I can help with mentoring, or I can help finding info. Putting it on the back table, right? Here's all the list of ways the city right now, back to school is happening. One thing is for my job is they're having a back to school drive where they give out the book bags and then you fill it up with the school supplies. It's just literally downstairs at our cafeteria. Anybody want to participate in that? They'll be happy to allow you to participate. So look, that's something right there. Just, hey, they already bought the book bags. You fill it up with school supplies. There's a list of what kids need. Boom, they're blessed, right? That's just maybe $20, $30, $40, right? Out of your pocket that changes some kid's life, right? Think about if I go to work and I said, oh, hey, I have 10. They say, whoa, I can't get no employee to take 1 book bag. You see what I'm saying? Like, you look at the impact you make just off small little volumes. So when you have things like that at your job, announce them. And then we participate, and it means something, right? It means something not only to your job, but remember, people are there. People may be persuaded to come after, hey, why you took so many? Or who gave all this? Oh, my church, they do this. Anything you guys need something else, let us know. Wow, why would you do that? You don't even know these people. Sometimes things like that is what motivates people. Okay, we're out of time, so let's end with the word of prayer, and then we'll pray over these and pray with guys. Go ahead, sister.
I forgot to mention this. Jackie's not feeling well. She having a lot of stomach pain in her stomach, and it's going to be back. So this is why she didn't come tonight.
Okay, thank you. Just wrote that down. Okay, let's go to God in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful and blessed day. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to study a portion of your word. We thank you for Jesus and the example that you gave us, a 3+ year ministry that allows us to take these instances, situations, parables, examples, and apply it to our time, our society, our talents, our abilities, our congregation, and how we can assist you and your Holy Spirit being an asset to your kingdom and not a liability. We ask that you strengthen us, dear God. We know that dealing with people is very intimidating. Some of us have different personalities. Some are able to do certain things, some are not, but we know that we're all created in your image. So we're all able to do something, and you gave all of us something to be good at. We're thankful for seeing that in us before we were seeing it in ourselves. And we're thankful for the talents and the abilities that you give us individually and as a church. Thank you for all that we have been doing. We ask that you open up our minds and ideas and blessings to things that we could be doing, maybe certain things that are outside of the box that would be wow factors to those that are lost and will be persuaded to participate and attend and eventually be saved. We're thankful, dear God, that you continue to spur us on to do good work. So we ask that all those young people that are going back to school at this time be blessed. And if there's any opportunity we can help in our local area or greater Bridgeport area, we take that as opportunity. We ask that you be with those who are physically suffering throughout this city, whether it be physical hunger or sexual abuse or divorce or broken families or financial situations, so many hardships around. We ask that maybe, dear God, that you allow us to say a nice word and encourage people and start with cheering their heart up and their mind and helping them to be free. And anything that we can do for them physically, we ask that you make that be known. As we travel to our respective locations, we ask that you be with us without the loss or harm of any. All praise and glory to you forever and ever. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, quick announcement. For those that are helping